Helen? Kendall? Helen?
Let's keep this going.
We should call the Delaware County Fish and Game Advisory Commission meeting to order. We do not have a quorum. We seem to have 4 members present, but can you take the roll, please, Jackie?
Yes. Chairman Jimmy Faulkner, Vice Chairman Rob Miller,
Here.
Commissioner J. Tuck Steinruck, Commissioner Kendall Smith, Commissioner Helen Ferguson, Commissioner Michael Koopman, Commissioner Job Silva.
So since we don't have a quorum and so forth, I guess the thing to do is just to kind of progress through a conversation as to what might be items of discussion. And so is there anything from the general public discussion this evening? And if you could come up to the podium and push the button so that she can record you. Thank you.
Anyway, as you all know, my name's Jeff Reed. I've come here on occasion to talk about waterfowl hunting. We came here, me and Frank and all the other people that didn't show up, we came here tonight to convince you all to write a support letter regarding the Fish and Wildlife meeting next Tuesday related to waterfowl hunting on Lake Earl and dune restoration and all that stuff that was in the, I wouldn't even call it an agenda. It was a public notice, and I think I sent it to you all. If I didn't, I
Yes.
apologize. But and Frank actually drafted a letter that we were hoping you all could submit if you approve of it, but you can't have a meeting, so it's kind of a moot point unless y'all wanted to try to have a meeting later this week. Just a thought, throw out there to you, because we don't know. The support of this group would make a big difference, I think, as far as input with the Fish and Wildlife folks when they come to town on Tuesday. Since the agenda, the real agenda has not been posted, and I requested it today from Sean Fries, who was the person we're supposed to request all the stuff from. And obviously today's a holiday, and we may or may not get that before Friday. I don't know. You know, I asked for who the presenters were, what the agenda is, how people can call in, how people can submit comments, the usual stuff you would ask for a public meeting. And whether I get any of that, I don't know.
Well, I know if it is a public meeting and it's a state organization, and therefore they have to post an agenda and so forth. I believe it's quote-unquote 72 hours or 3 days prior to the meeting. And so,
Yeah.
like you're saying, if the meeting's on Tuesday or Wednesday, they got to have it posted someplace by Friday, I think. So I think you were right on the date.
Yeah, that was my assumption, but there's...
Yeah.
He said that they put it in the local paper. I'm just telling you what he told me.
Okay.
They put a meeting notice in the local paper. They haven't put an agenda out yet.
But it all depends what kind of
That's the key right there.
the problem.
Right.
And go ahead, Helen, I don't want to interrupt you.
No, I was just saying that.
Helen, you have to push your button, remember?
I was just saying, we still don't know what kind of a meeting it is. And if they're talking about developing a plan, is it like a notice of preparation? See, we don't even know. It's just like, I think it's everybody's going to walk in a room and talk. Nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the thing in that, the handout there, they call it an outreach. Well, that's like me talking to my neighbor, but I don't know what the state means by that. But anyhow, in support of hunting going on out there, our not so small waterfowlers group, we have about 75 members now in our
You've
group.
gained a few since,
Pardon me?
I said you've gained a few maybe
We've
since
gained
you
a few
started
in
this
the
little
last month. Helen and I,
snowball.
Helen had a Grange meeting last week or the week before, and I talked to the group there about it. And the more people know, the better they understand the truth of all this. But for the meeting next week, we put together a short and sweet, I'll call it an opposition letter, because that's what it is. It's an opposition to hunting out there during the hunting season, and I may have copied y'all on that. I don't remember. I've sent out too many things, but we focus strictly on what the permit says from the Coastal Commission. And there's nothing in that permit that says they can't do work outside of waterfowl season, and it tells them how to do work outside of waterfowl season. So we don't really understand what the rub is, other than the dude stewards and Sean Freeze and Jeff Stoddard are adamant that they can, and Tina Bartlett, who's the boss of all of them, are very adamant that the only time they can work is during the waterfowl season. And that's a direct quote from Tina Bartlett, and she told me to do whatever and go talk to Sean from now on.
So, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service said it's possible to do it other times.
It lists four times and ways to do the work all year round, and there's more restrictive during the non-waterfowl season. But we sat down and did the math. There's 250 days a year they can do the work out there that doesn't conflict with waterfowl season.
Have you considered at all to try to contact, is there a U.S. Fish and Wildlife office in Eureka?
Yes.
Arcata. To contact them?
I talked to
And
him.
see if someone would physically be at that meeting?
No, but Frank's sort of working on that. I don't want to speak for him. I talked to him last June, I think before I wrote the director, because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't telling half-truths.
Sure.
And what they told me was, there's no plovers where they're removing this vegetation, because they don't exist there. And they explained to me that the reason there's 4 conditions for work all year round is because that's how the Fish and Wildlife Service restricts and activities and saves endangered species, but it's not a black or white, you can only do it from this date to that date. There's workarounds for all year round work. And the only thing they have to do is have a biologist do a survey out there. And if there's no plovers there, they can work any damn day they want to. And certain times of the year, it's 100 meters restrictions. Other times of the year, 4 days in a row, there are no restrictions on maintaining a distance with the plovers. And I had the same discussion regarding the sand dune plant earlier this year. And those restrictions were, the gal told me, different person, Fish and Wildlife in Portland, said this is why we write these things the way we do, so that other things can go on, because nothing is black and white that somebody in an office can predict. And I'm thinking the people in Eureka, they don't read what I read, I guess.
Well, it seems to me that absolutely should submit at the meeting the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service guidelines for the time as to when that work could be done. Specifically, hand them a copy. This
Well-
is what U.S. Fish and Wildlife says, folks, and you guys are trying to say that it can only be done at certain times, but it's not exactly what they say.
I've sang that song to the director, the deputy director, Tina Bartlett, who's a regional manager, to Jeffrey Stoddard, who is a regional wildlife guy, to Sean Freeze, who is the local wildlife guy, and they all reply with, they can only do it from September 15th to February 15th. That's the only time they're allowed to work out there. And we all know they advertise in the local paper that they work year-round. They solicit volunteers. And I sent that to them, the stuff out of the paper. So they're in denial, you know, and I like your point about, we could bring another copy of attachment G, which I've shared with everybody, that says exactly how you can work year-round, but they're in disbelief. I can't explain it, other than they're blowing me off, which we all figured out almost a year ago, because we've been talking about this for a year. So,
Unfortunately, I think that's true.
yeah.
You know, I mean,
Jackie, okay, there's 4 people here. Now, not counting those that are resigned or ill, can you get another 3 and have a special meeting before the 18th?
Very unlikely. It might be.
I'm just asking if you legally can do it.
I think maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, Jackie, we've got a copy of the letter that they've written, which is a letter that, in theory, that's coming from the commission.
Yeah.
We could theoretically have a phone conversation. I said in
think so.
theory.
I
and
think
then-
so.
And then we could sign the letter after having a phone conversation.
Yeah.
We gotta have 5 members. 6, do we even have 6 members?
Well,
We have 7.
do we have their phone numbers? Like, could we call them like right
yeah.
now so it's officially in here?
We got, we can get that. We got, So we actually physically have 6 members, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We actually have 7 members. Oh my.
Don't you have a quorum of 5?
Quorum of 6, has to be one more than half,
That's the problem.
has always been
You have to have one more than,
half. Then we're not in a position.
Okay, how many total members are we supposed to have? 10? We need to get that changed.
It goes back to the original number on
Yeah.
the board, though.
but what about if you've only got 7 on the commission? It doesn't matter, it's how many seats there are.
Has how many
Evidently,
seats.
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
That's the government map.
Yeah. So I don't think it's a problem. I don't think it's a problem. I mean, we can contact Job, of course, he's here. Helen's here. I've got JTEC's contact. I probably got Jimmy's contact, not sure.
Koopman's easy to get a hold of.
Kendall, and so, you know, between us, we could get back and forth. And maybe it's okay, maybe it's not okay, that the 4 members that are here say, if you do want to say yes, and then all we have to do is contact 3 others? Or do we
We'll have to send it
all
out in an
7
email.
At the same time?
It'd have to go out in an email type of thing, and then we'd have to have the votes from there.
Okay, so it'd have to go out in an email, and 7 people would have to respond and say yes via email. Okay?
Do 4 here and then ask for
I
3?
don't think that, yeah, I
Oh.
don't think it's a problem. I think
Okay.
if we get a motion and so forth to go ahead and do it that way, then you could.
That's not gonna matter because you don't have enough for a motion.
So we don't have to have a motion. So all we need to do is have Jackie send a copy of this letter out tomorrow,
Yep.
okay? And ask commissioners to respond via email and say yes or no in submitting this to Fish and Wildlife at their meeting on the 18th, I think it is, isn't it?
Tuesday, the 18th, yes.
And see what we get, and if you don't get the responses back, then you can contact me, and I will phone them and make sure that they submit an email back, okay?
What letter do you have, if you don't mind me asking?
I don't know.
The one you just gave us.
The one that I just,
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, it was the one that Frank drafted and
Frank
handed out.
he
Perfect, 'cause that's-
just gave it to us.
Yeah, we created a short comment form for people to fill
Yeah.
out that can't attend the meeting, and Frank kind of glammed it up a little bit.
I haven't read it, but
Well-
it might be okay.
Yeah, so, well, if you folks could figure out a way to at least
Yeah.
try to
Yeah.
get a letter to that group.
I talked to
That would
Sean
be
the other
great.
day about another issue, and he asked me whether I would be able to attend a meeting, and I said, I don't think so. I mean, it's kind of a busy time for me, and,
Yeah.
2 hours, yeah, it just doesn't work very well.
The only thing that worked better than was the meeting they wanted to have last month on 3 days' notice. And I wrote him and said, that's just not satisfactory.
Yeah.
Nobody can show up to a meeting with 3 days'
Right.
notice.
And see, the sad part about the law is, all they gotta do is stick a
Yeah.
little piece in the newspaper,
Yep,
and they're legally covered for having a meeting.
yep. Well,
And-
they
and-
hadn't
and if
even
you don't
sent it
get
to
If you don't get the duplicate, you don't even know they're gonna have a meeting.
I doubt, I don't know that it was even in the triplicate. So I asked Sean today when I wrote him, are you gonna at least post it in the local paper on Friday? You know,
Probably not.
we'll see what he says.
Well, I called him and they hadn't even sent it to Jackie, so then finally he did the next day.
Oh, they sent it to Jackie the other day, because I had a discussion with Sean about that.
Well, he wasn't gonna do it.
I talked to Sean
until
on Monday
After he talked to,
about another little issue. We're not gonna talk about that issue here at the moment.
So if I can't enlighten you with anything else, I'll say one last thing and then I'll sit down.
Sure.
Perhaps when y'all do have a quorum, consider having a regular twice-a-year meeting with Sean or whoever from the Eureka office, whoever's in that job, and say, we insist that you come to this county and speak to the public and the commission at least twice a year.
Yeah. Well, he was here once. He was
Well-
here once with Carrington.
No, he was on the phone.
He
was
was
on
on
the
the
He
phone.
was on the phone.
Yeah,
Well, he's too important to come.
well, it's just like the
Well-
meeting on the 18th. This is a working community. 7 o'clock would have been nice.
that was my other point to Mr. Stoddard when they planned it on 3
Yeah.
days' notice. But,
Yeah, there's just no question. I mean, hey,
Yeah.
5:30 is a touch on the early side, but it works better than 3 to 5 or whatever their time frame is. I mean, their time frame is crazy. They don't want somebody to come. They don't want people to comment.
yeah, we're lucky, we're all older.
I tell folks I'm getting younger, they know exactly what I mean.
Frank Leah. When I was researching for this letter that I put together for you, I tried to call Fish and Wildlife Service, but it's a holiday for them today. One thing I found is that at this point in time, the snowy plover population is not doing that great in Humboldt County. It's doing a lot better down in Southern California. It has nested off our coast near Lake Earl in the past, but it's been over like 20 years. You can't blame them for wanting to improve habitat so that we can get them nesting up here again, because it would be a real positive. But the interesting thing is that they haven't nested here for a long time. They do winter here. You know, there's a winter population. But in order for the dune stewards to do their work, all they have to do is have a qualified biologist go out there and do a survey. And if they do 4 days in a row with getting no detections, that's it. They're done. They can, all the gloves are off. It's unlimited requirements. So I just don't understand why they can't do a very simple survey, clear the site, and then they can do whatever they want, and we can enjoy waterfowl hunting. There doesn't have to be this confrontational issue. So it just doesn't make any sense. Why go to all these extremes and lengths and costs and money and sending people up here when realistically it's a very simple answer. Do a survey. They're not there. Go to work. Besides all the other things that we wrote in the letter, such as we've got all these other areas that you want to extract dune grass, go work there during the waterfowl season, and when the waterfowl season's closed, then you come and work in this area. There are people, of course, that are of the mindset that, well, it's just another way of trying to limit hunting or stop hunting on Lake Earl eventually. I don't know that that's necessarily true, but I do know that from 30 years as a consulting biologist in this county is that we're not really looked very well upon by some of these agencies, Del Norte County. And Jeff says that they're planning on rewriting the Lake Earl management plan maybe next year. So I think this is a great time for the county to stand up and say, no, this is not acceptable. It's a great time. Jeff's put together a waterfowl group. He's got over 70 members. It's a great time for that, so that we have that core group of people that can start commenting on this thing for next year if they start putting out a plan. And I think the more, I guess the more people that show concern about this subject and the lake, I think the more they'll listen to us. My personal opinion is that the management plan that is currently in place has detrimentally affected the lake in a very big way as far as waterfowl go. I'm not an expert on freshwater ecology. I'm not an expert on waterfowl. I'm a waterfowl hunter. I am a biologist, and I've hunted that lake for over 30 years. I've seen a serious downturn in waterfowl use of that lake right after the department took over the regime of breaching. And it's very unfortunate, and it's also not monitored by the agency over time, so they don't even know themselves exactly what was going on. And so when this new plan comes out, I really think we need to put our 2 cents worth in. If they want to come up with this kind of breaching thing, the same regime, I think this county needs to step up and really say, that didn't work. Let's try to think of something else. Thanks.
Do you have any idea, Jeff, maybe you know, has anybody from the Board of Supervisors or the county, do you know if they're aware of this meeting and whether is anybody going to come to this meeting from the county?
Jerry Hemmingson said he was.
Jerry's coming.
That's what he told me.
It would be interesting. You know, you're probably not going to get Neil, or you're not going to get.
I asked if maybe he could see if Neil could come.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the county was to, the county should have input over this,
Right.
And if they've got constituents in the county, which they do, who have been grousing at them about the hunting, then they should come and express the opinion that there should be some change and allow the hunting to continue. I think private people expressing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 20, 50, 100, whatever opinions, may not, and maybe I'm wrong, may not go as far as the county physically coming and
I agree.
expressing. The county physically coming and expressing, it's too bad. Hopefully Chris could come and Jerry could come, because they're the two Natural Resources Committee members.
Right.
It'd be nice if they could both come to that meeting.
I'll
Or at
call
least a
Jer-
portion of
I'll call
it.
Jerry again tomorrow
Okay.
to make sure. And then he was going to ask about having Neil come.
Yeah.
On a positive note, though, for the first time in the history of the Lake Earl Wildlife Area, they have a surveyor here and has been here for a long time. And they are identifying the fish and game lands versus the state park lands, which is something that has never been done before.
Been kind of fuzzy. Yeah. Anything to improve the accessibility to that property to the public is good.
But that fish and game reevaluation or update or whatever you want to call it, that's been out there for 2 years. That's not something new.
Well, and I had actually planned to invite all the supervisors. I talked to Jerry personally, and I know we have the supervisors that are very reticent about coming. But I'm going to personally invite them, and I'll talk to Jerry as well.
Yeah, I think
Neil and whoever else from that group, somebody should show up.
yeah, I think if
I talked to Valerie Starkey, but she has, I want to say, I could be mixed up, but I think she said she has a solid waste management meeting that day. I think that's what she said.
garbage is way more important, Helen. Well, Chris is the guy that should come, because Chris and Jerry are the two guys on the natural resources.
That's right.
Who knows if Chris is even going to be in town? I haven't talked to him for a long time. I'll send him a text and see what he responds. But if you could send a letter or comment or request whatever to each of them, I think that would be really good. And hey, they may not come, but at least that officially from your standpoint been asked, and then you can see who's, yeah.
And I also plan to invite that. I think there's 2 people still that are going to be in the election next month, potential supervisors. See anything here what they have to say as well. But we'll see.
And who's Neil's assistant now? Was a county planner, and then he was a airport manager, and now he's, oh boy, my mind. Randy.
Yeah.
Randy Hooper would be as good, if not better than Neil. Because Randy's been involved in a lot of the ongoing county planning issues and so forth for years and years and years, and knows a lot about the lake, I'm sure, because of county planning and development and all that kind of stuff. So he may very well be a better choice than Neil, or certainly as good, because he's the assistant county administrator now. So.
The other big unknown in this meeting is, and this was a question I gave to Sean, I had to ask how we're supposed to ask questions and submit comments. So it doesn't speak well for the planned event. But we'll see what he has to say. So everything has to be submitted in advance. I'll be very disappointed and rather bad.
Yeah, maybe we can have some fun like we did when the Fish and Game was up here before.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
They'll probably show up if you're not going to be there, Rob.
Oh, they'll show up if I'm not going to be there.
That's what I said.
We can mention your name if you're not going to be there.
Wave the red
Yeah,
flag.
they came the last time with guns. Okay, so thanks for the public input. Do any of the counselors actually have any commission members, any specifics to add this evening? No good hunting stories or anything good like that, I guess, huh? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for coming. so. I guess we're, like,
Try to get a meeting then, into this week?
we should try to get, Jackie's going to send the letter out to all of the counselors, right? And if she doesn't get information back by Friday morning, ask for a response. Today's what day? Today's Monday. Try to have them see if they could, if they could email you back by Thursday morning. And then maybe sometime on Thursday, let me know who has not. And then I'll work on trying to contact.
Okay, the other option is we could do it as a Zoom if you guys wanted to do an actual meeting.
Yeah, I think it would be better to just do it by email.
Okay.
Now, I don't have any real good reason that's the case, but I think
I think
if you're
odds
try-
are
if you're
better.
trying to get everybody to Zoom at a certain time, it may not work. But, you know, it's like Mike, he may be able to send back a response and so forth at, 6 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night, and not sometime during the day. So I think it would be better to try to do it all, if possible, by email, for an email response, and then if you don't get them, I'll try to call them and contact them.
Does the county have a biologist?
Well, how many times in that public records request did we ask who the overseeing biologists were? We still haven't received the answer on that.
Right, yeah, they have to hire someone from somewhere.
I got
And,
a piece of property I was splitting one time, and they sent the plans to New York. And this guy sent it back, says, you can't build in a creek. It's not a creek, it's a ridge, it's top of a mountain. That they had the map totally backwards and upside down, but it cost me $5,000 in 5 months to get it changed. There was nothing wrong with it, so I know how they are shipping stuff out of town.
yeah, so I don't think that's, yeah. I just don't understand and that would be something to ask at the meeting, why they're so adamantly against applying U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service suggestions to the timeframe.
Yeah, their recommendations,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, that's the big crazy. I mean, they're coming up with, we're going to do it this way and this way and this way only, and that makes no sense to me.
See, because obviously for the Fish and Wildlife to have made that statement, they had to have had their biologists come up with that. They couldn't just arbitrarily pick that out of the air. And then, but this group, I don't think have had the biologists there, or they would have told us who they were.
Yeah. Well, there's no question about the fact that U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service isn't going to put that down as their suggestions without having researched it.
Right.
So, okay. If no one has anything else, we'll adjourn.